And good afternoon to you. I am Kim McAllister in for Nikki Medoro. On this Wednesday, of course, Nikki's daughter's still in the hospital, but she's going to pop in when she can, join us and say hello. Thank you all for being here in the chat and for your patience as I had to close out one show and come over to the other. So I really appreciate it. I want to start this show off by thanking our founding sponsor, of course, that is tax attorney Steve Moskowitz. And we are very grateful for his sponsorship. For more than 30 years, Steve has been helping people, businesses, individuals, whatever you got, Steve's the guy to help you. It's 888-TAX-STEAL, MoskowitzLLP.com, and hopefully we'll be able to welcome Steve on the show and talk a little bit about that as well. The first thing I want to do, because I know he's been here waiting in the wings longer than I've been here waiting today to get the show on the air, is to welcome the one, the only, the amazing Chip Franklin to the broadcast. Chip, thank you for coming on the Nikki Medoro show today.
Well, of course. It's great to be here. Good to see you again. You look great.
Did you wear a suit and tie just for me?
No, I'm headed to the airport in just a couple minutes. So I wanted to pop in and say hi. I have to go to blah, blah, blah here or there. So anyway,
okay.
Yeah, so it's good to be here. It's nice to not be going up in an airplane in a cyclone of bad weather.
Yeah,
I'm down here in San Diego, and I know you're in the Bay Area. What's the weather like there now? Good, better?
We're supposed to be getting some sprinkles today.
Sprinkles.
So yeah, it's a light storm on the scale.
Yeah, I like all the different.
A level 1.
Yeah. Poor Spencer Christian. I bet that guy hasn't slept in the last 7 days, man.
It's totally true. Yeah. Okay, so the first thing I want to ask you before I throw some stories your way is Mark was wondering what's happening with your show. Are you still doing it? Are we on a break?
Yeah, I'm doing I'm working. So whatthefranklin.com is the link that'll take you to wherever I end up doing. I'm working on and I apologize. I was doing a daily podcast and it was just too much with everything else that I'm trying to do. And I'm still going to do a podcast, actually 3 podcasts coming up. One will be a political podcast. It's going to be on the Really American YouTube page, which is a Democratic super PAC, where you can see a lot of the 60-second videos I do, as well as, if you go to whatthefranklin.com, next week, there will be something there. And then I'm going to be doing one called Mr. IQ, where I interview the smartest people in the world. And it's a very niche thing. I got a guy on next week talking about the theory of algebraic equations in supercomputers. So we're going to talk about that and everything from that to I got a guy on the from the Mutual UFO Network, and I got a chess player from Russia who's 16 and is a world champion. So it'll be a lot of stuff. And the third podcast I got coming out is called How to Be an Artist and Not Starve. I'm doing it with a childhood friend of mine who used to be in the Starland vocal band and has written a lot of songs. And we're going to interview a lot of famous, everybody from Wanda Sykes to Yo-Yo Ma.
Oh, wow.
Talk about their story about, it's essentially, the whole idea is to inspire young people who want to follow the arts and how to make a living in the process so they can continue their journey. So I'm working on a lot of stuff and it will come out.
You're busy.
I'm so flattered that people have asked and I really plan on it. I saw the ratings for the new KGO bullshit. And, of course, people that don't understand what happened there, they were planning on Prop 26 or 27 or both to pass. And so gambling would be legal in the state and they would go to listen to them before they made their bets. And oops, you can still gamble from California, but you just got to go someplace else.
So since we're talking about that, let me ask you that, because even at the time when they closed KGO, both of those measures were going down to a stinging defeat. So I wonder, do they care if that measure passes in California for the success of a sports betting radio station?
Of course they need it.
Or do you think that people are going to bet on sports, whether it's legal or not? I mean, you've got fantasy football, you've got,
can't use DraftKings in California. You can't use FanDuel on your phone in California.
Okay.
So you got to be outside the state to do it. So it probably saved a lot of lives and marriages and property and stuff. It's a horrible thing to allow people who are gambling addicts, and those are the ones that'll be doing it, to have instant access to it. I mean, it's kind of like, it's like, it's like having Uber meth dealers, bringing it right to your door. I mean, it's effed up in a lot of ways. I mean, look, everybody's got a right to do it, but we also have a right to protect vulnerable people. And that's the battle we have with, the Republican BS every day. So
were you, and I know you had already departed the station, which, is kind of a good thing probably.
What is
Yeah.
I didn't depart. It wasn't like one day I said, I'm going to go for a walk and I never came back. No,
I was
Lee
trying to
Hammer.
say it gently.
Well, I was fired for.
It's radio. It happens to everybody,
Yeah,
right?
they told people I was fired for money, but I was actually fired. I'm not distorting, by the way. Am I? This mic sometimes
No,
happens.
you sound and
Okay.
look wonderful.
Thank you. No, I was fired because my program director kept telling me to take more phone calls, and I said I'd rather talk to smarter people. Not to knock you guys, but who would you rather hear from? An expert on political science, or Bob from Foster City, who wants to scream at people because, Trump wasn't reelected. That was my push with him. And, and I get it, I mean, it's his station and Lee's a friend, but that's why I was fired. So.
Yeah. Were you surprised though from afar when you found that the station just kind of imploded on itself?
I was surprised and saddened. There were great people there. I mean, my whole little look, we had an amazing show for a while when I had Nikki and Heather and Brian and Karen, and we would do politics, we would do music, we would do comedy, and our ratings were better than they were when they made me change the format. That's the thing about there's an old saying in our business. Did you hear about the program director that got run over by a train? Yeah, he didn't hear it coming. They're not particularly, and Lee's a great guy. I'm just saying this, and I mean, he can come at me. We can go play golf, and he can kick my ass there. But I really believe, I'd done 28 straight years of doing talk radio, and nobody asked my opinion. That's fine, But I mean, I know that when I got there, when I met Nikki and Brett before I met your lovely face, but I saw those guys and they told me to keep it quiet. They were going to fire a lot of people. And I'm like, well, you're a freaking moron if you fire these two. Cause I mean, I'd worked with Brett in a couple breaking stories, and Brett got the facts right. And Nikki is a tremendous talent. I mean, a tremendous talent. As soon as I could, I brought her on the show. They wouldn't let me name the show. So I said, fuck it, I'll do it anyway. I just called it. I'm sorry about that. Sorry. I just called it Chip and Nikki. And, it was one of those things too. Like, I'm sitting here giving all this dirty talk on this, but like, I mean, it was interesting when Jack Swanson took over, and, I'd heard of Jack, and I truly expected to be fired when he came in, and he didn't fire me. And I appreciate that. And Doug didn't fire me. And I don't know who fired me. I don't think it was Atlanta. I think that they just wanted to lower their costs, and they also wanted to, I'm kind of a pain in the ass, and I think that was part of it too. But, I mean, believe me, if I'd have had a 5 rating, they wouldn't have fired me. That's the bottom line. So it was ultimately on me. So, but this is a great format, and this is a great way for people to continue to see and hear, the personalities they like. I think that there's a challenge here. There's a lot of noise on the internet. It'd be great if we could, take phone calls in this format, and I'm sure that's in the offering sometime soon. It'd be fun to talk to Bob from Foster City and have him yell at me again. But I think part of this, part of what makes this also work is the fact that, you can tell a lot from looking at each other's faces and see the expressions and all. And I'm pretty sure the people that did like me on the radio, sure as hell don't want to look at my face, but I get that, Anyway, so yeah,
you're getting a lot of love in the chat. A lot of people missed the show, agree that it was awesome. Nick says
it was awesome because when they let me have the players that I had, the craziness from Spicy Spice, and then I think Nikki was Kellyanne, and then Brian was Jared, and Karen was the missing Trump daughter. It was fun. And, and that's the problem is like, when people don't get the humor, it instead of asking and trying to understand it, they get afraid. They get a little frightened by it, and they come in here and they think that we were liberal, progressive people who didn't want to scare and frighten people. And that's where the money is. The money is in, pulling out the sharp knives and going after the opponent and trying to frighten people. I mean, the Republicans are so good at it, especially with race, and, we just pointed out the truth, I mean, it wasn't a deep pretzel logic SRS dive into the truth. It was right there on the surface, and we just we had fun with it. So anyway,
Russ says Chip wasn't afraid to take on the troll calls. And that's really true because it didn't matter when the phone rang who was on it, whether it was Bob in Foster City talking about why didn't Trump win or whatever, that you were never afraid to just go, let's attack that. Let's talk about that.
Well, it was not as was fun working with Nikki. Nikki had a bucket of cold water whenever I got a little crazy, and she would, and we played. It was fun. I'd never done a show with anybody before. I mean,
Yeah.
I started in talk radio in '93, and I'd always been by myself, and that's a tough habit to kick. But over that time, working, one on one with Nikki and talking about political issues and stuff. It was fun. I remember once Kamal Bell was in the studio with us, and I'm talking, and he looks at me and he goes, "Are you going to let her talk?" It was pretty funny. Yeah.
Okay, so I haven't heard your take on this whole document situation yet, but there's some news today that the FBI was thinking about maybe raiding President Biden's home or, going to open an investigation, I should say. And so they didn't because it appears that the Biden attorneys have cooperated. So different situation than what you have with Trump and,
You
not
think?
turning over all the documents and everything. But I wanted to get your take on the whole situation because one of the things I miss about having you on the radio is being able to hear your thoughts on the daily news. So this is a big one that I'd love to hear what you have to say.
Well, I mean, first of all, Biden turned the documents over voluntarily. We didn't, the National Archives didn't have to fight anybody. He turned the documents over. How the documents got in there, I don't know, but it was while he was vice president. It wasn't while he was president. There's absolutely no indication that any documents from the last 2 years or while he's actually been enacting policy, you know what vice presidents do? They go to funerals. Right.
Yeah.
They're not involved in policy making. They're not involved in any type of real meaningful action inside the federal government. They're basically the guy waiting in case the main guy has a heart attack. That's what they do. So whatever documents he had, I'd love to hear exactly what they were, because I guarantee you it's nothing like Trump. Trump had 15 boxes during that raid and 11,000 documents, and they were laying everywhere. Believe me, if you wanted to see a document, you just have to ask permission from Kid Rock or Chachi. They were right there, right? Joe Biden, is this a total screw up? Yeah, politically it is. A threat. It allows people like McCarthy and the other idiots in the Republican Party to stand up like they actually know something. The bottom line is, when you look at this case, again, I am a progressive and I'm a liberal, but I'm also a realist, and Biden was never my first choice for president, but, Clyburn in South Carolina got it going. His momentum took him right through the White House, and he beat Trump. It was a great victory for Democrats to get that guy out of the office. So when you look at these documents and you look at what's happened here in the past, since November, you got to ask yourself, how did this happen? But also remember that it happened when he was vice president. And so his access to these documents went right through, again, we're going back to 2015, 2014. I mean, it's a long time ago, so bottom line is, if in fact, I think that, that we should, I think that, what's the guy's name? The prosecutor that's looking into this.
I'm not sure. Yeah.
Yeah. When we should look at all the documents and we should ascertain how they got there and what the situation is. But let's remember who we're talking about. The 45th president of the United States not only had documents in his and purposely took them. It was not an accident. He took them. He had them in access to foreign dignitaries, including MBS and other Saudis who came and who were allowed to walk free in the area that these documents were. And he wouldn't give them back. He still has documents. He will not give them back. So tell me how these are similar.
Nikki was saying that if President Biden had these documents, he should be investigated just like Trump is being investigated. Let's look into it. Let's figure it out. If you did it, you did it. Let's find out why and how, and if anything was compromised, and it should be an investigation should be launched.
Well,
and I was talking.
You know how many top secret? You know how many classified documents there are in the federal government?
I'm sure a lot, because
it seems. Take a guess.
Yeah.
The estimate.
I would say more than 1 million.
somewhere around 350 million
Yeah.
classified documents. So the fact that, that we talk about these things like they're the holy grail, that's fine.
Yeah.
But we really need to understand what classifications mean. And again, there's some stuff that's only read in the SCIF, right? That's really
Yeah.
super secret, super sensitive, doesn't leave the SCIF,
Sure.
right? But the fact that the president, the former president, had these documents in his residence and scattered all over the place. The doc and then Hannity trying to bring up that bullshit that China had paid for the Penn Biden Center. Okay. Um, China contributed 54 million to the University of Pennsylvania, not to the Biden Center. And by the way, in the last 10 years, China has contributed more than $1 billion to U.S. universities across the country. So when you heard Fox News and try to bring the Chinese connection, they're all lying sacks of shit. And what they're trying to do is another case of whataboutism with Trump. There is absolutely, right now, absolutely nothing to connect these stories other than the fact that the word classified is surrounding them. There's apples and oranges as you can get.
Well, what she was saying was that if something happened, there should be an investigation for Biden, just like Trump. And my comment to her was how interesting that Democrats can say,
Of
"Oh,
course, yeah.
President Biden did something wrong. Well, there should be an investigation into that." But the hardcore
Crickets. It was
conservatives,
crickets when Trump, they all.
right? It's like, so
Yeah.
why is it even-handed and a level-headed approach on one side, but on the other side they circle the wagons and don't let anybody in? How the response is not equal.
Well, it's the new Republican Party. It's the Trump Republican Party. I mean, if look, whether or not these documents have any real significance to national security will be ascertained. That'll be pretty easy because there's not 15,000 of them. I don't know the actual number, but the one I heard was somewhere in the 80s to 90s, the total number of documents, of which many were low-level classification. So we'll find out. Again, let me bring it up again. He was the vice president. The vice president doesn't have access to these classified documents without going through justice or without going through the White House. So anything he had, it was something that Obama wanted him to see and wanted his opinion on it. Remember, this is a guy that has 50 years of public service serving this country, with absolutely no scandals, and again, the fact that they continue to attack his son and say that his son is a national security, considering the fact that, coked up Junior and is on every day. Again, this is a guy who went to the Trump Tower to meet Russians to get dirt and information on American politicians, violating a dozen laws. And the only reason he couldn't be prosecuted because the law said in that you have to know what you were doing was illegal. And he's too freaking stupid to even know that. So, I mean, go down this rabbit hole. We'll be there for years. There's no comparison here.
Clark Reed joining the show today. Hi, Clark Reed, formerly of Station X. He says, since the archives never had asked for the documents from Biden, it's obvious they didn't even know about them. He says that's a scary incompetence issue. He says Biden's people let them know. That is true. That is the difference.
Well, and like I mentioned before, there are hundreds of millions of classified documents in there over the last century. And, the fact that, I mean, and most, if not, I don't know if any have actually been digitized. There are many hard copies there. So, yeah.
Okay, let's switch topics because you were talking a little bit about money and we've been talking about politics. And there's a large group of millionaires calling on world governments to tax the ultra rich. So these are people that would probably be affected by the tax that they're calling for. The group, which includes Disney heiress Abigail Disney and actor Mark Ruffalo, is urging leaders meeting in Davos, Switzerland for the World Economic Forum to introduce wealth taxes to tackle extreme inequality. They say that the rich signatories warned inaction could lead to catastrophe for ordinary households. Extreme inequality.
Yeah. Well, I mean, obviously, whatever happens in Europe or around the world doesn't really matter here. The Republicans now have the House, and the Republicans, well, there's probably enough in the Senate to block any type of bill. Look, Musk, what does Musk work? Like $250 billion or some ridiculous amount like that. These guys got rich on the backs of American taxpayers who created the infrastructure, which allowed people like Bezos and Musk to make the billions that they have. we should be taxing them at an accelerated rate. Look, I mean, you know, if they had $1 billion, it's still generational money. They can take care of their kids, and their kids. Okay. The fact that you have 230 billion or whatever these, Bezos and Zuckerberg and whomever, I think there are 1,000 billionaires in Silicon Valley, if I'm not mistaken. I read that once when I was there in San
It
Francisco.
is billionaire central for sure.
Yeah, and so the idea that this taxing them is somehow attacking the American dream is BS. These are people who have, again, accumulated wealth on the shoulders of Americans who have created the infrastructure which allows them to accumulate that wealth. The roads that those Amazon vans drive down there were paid for by you and I. And the idea that they should be able to use this existing infrastructure in this country to create the kind of wealth that can not only position themselves because of Citizens United as people that can unduly influence politics, which, again, I don't believe Citizens United was an accurate depiction of freedom of speech, but they also use this money to thwart competition. We've seen it before. I mean, what did Facebook do when Instagram came along? They bought them. The only reason people haven't bought TikTok is because it's in China.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, to me, it's like back in the days of the railroads and the early days of Carnegie and others that had a stranglehold on the American economic landscape. And it's that we should have higher taxes. I don't know what their appropriate number is, but a hell of a lot higher than zero.
Let's talk about this guy, George Santos. There he is.
I just hired him to write my resume, so I'm working on that. Yeah,
I saw a story earlier that a guy says Santos was trying to help him raise money for his sick dog and then walked away with the $3,000 they raised. And now I see a story that says there's a group of lawmakers that worries that Santos, the New York congressman, newly sworn in, might be a flight risk. The Nassau County lawmaker, Josh Lavazon, and congressional members are now calling for his passport to be revoked.
No. We want to give him 2 passports. Get him the hell out of here. Why do we? I don't want to keep him. Let him go. I'd drive him to the airport.
I get he's under numerous investigations for lying about this, that, and the other, and possibly campaign finances and such. I'm wondering what you think should happen to Mr. Santos.
Well, Al Franken was kicked out of office for pretending to grab a woman's tits when he was a comedian, right? Can I say tits? It's a great word. Why shouldn't
you really haven't? You've let all the words fly today.
We should call this the tits show for me, not you. Anyway, but no. So Franken was drummed that off, and this guy has lied on every possible level that you can lie. And McCarthy doesn't want to lose his vote. That shows you the integrity in the Republican Party. And if you're a Republican, listen to me and don't like what I have to say, there you go. So.
I thought there was more expletives coming. I mean, it seems like they're kind of downgrading the whole ethics department in Congress. And so I worry, what's going to happen to Santos? Is he just going to be allowed to continue like nothing's wrong? Are the investigations going to get him? I don't know.
Great question. I mean, they put him in 2 committees. He's on 2 committees. Look,
he's on the Space and Technology Committee as one of them, I think.
Yeah. I mean, to put this in proper context, Marjorie Taylor Greene, who denied that a plane hit the Pentagon, is now on the Homeland, on the committee that serves Homeland Security. That's all you have to know about Kevin McCarthy and this party, that they have absolutely no spine, and that George Santos is just a perfect example, a perfect metaphor for who they are. They're a lying group of backstabbing, racist, un-American coyotes. They really are. They're the kind of people that prowl around looking for weakness, and they have absolutely no strength within the party at all.
All right, I know you have to go to the airport, but I also know that you're a finance guy. And so I wanted to bring this next story up to you, if only to talk about the greater picture of our economy and what this story means. There is a McDonald's on Fisherman's Wharf in San Francisco. So if I can bring up the picture. Yeah, here's what it looks like on Fisherman's Wharf. And it's been a pretty popular McDonald's. Lots of tourists go there. Lots of people go there. It's closing down. The story is that they are shutting it down. They posted a sign on the door They say there's an In-N-Out nearby, there's other places to get burgers. Business just isn't what it once was. Apparently, it's been years and years since San Francisco, which has at least 10 other McDonald's restaurants, lost to McDonald's. So I wonder if you think it says something about the economy when you see a place like McDonald's in a very busy location start closing down. What does it mean about the economy and the possibility of a recession?
Um, there's an old, when miners used to go down in the caves and deep down into the ground, they would bring a canary in a cage because they were worried that some of the gases that could be harmful to humans, they knew it would kill the canary first, right? And that's become a metaphor for, you know, small observations that lead to bigger results, tipping points, as Malcolm Gladwell said. I- you know, I used to think about, the thing about McDonald's is McDonald's food is it's a treat. I mean, there's nothing wrong with going to McDonald's twice a month. You know, going to McDonald's twice a day, it's probably a problem. The food isn't good for you. I think that San Franciscans in general are more aware of that. I think that people that live in the city, with the more information we get, and you can get everything you need now on the web, right? I would say it's more of a sign that people in the city are choosing to eat better, and they're passing up. I mean, Subway's better. I mean, it's still fast food, and
Yeah.
I mean, is the Subway still open across from us, right over across the street, right there
Yeah. You mean
on
from
Broadway?
Station
Yeah,
X? Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, okay, yeah. So I mean, I
As far as
think
I know, I haven't been there in 4 months, so I don't know.
that's true, right? I think when we look at the economy and people worry about especially with inflation, and with stagflation, which is what we had in the '70s, which was a recession and high
Yeah.
inflation. I think that that the economy is strong, unemployment is down. We have we still have some inflationary numbers, and a big part of that is because of Ukraine's effect and the spike in agriculture and energy. I think that you've had some American oil companies and we've had some companies take part in gouging.
Mhm.
I wouldn't, McDonald's closing. I don't see that. I don't see that
Not
as
much of
an
a not
indicator.
much of a
No,
thing.
nah.
Okay. All right, I have to do some news, and I know
All
you
right.
have to go. Well, do you have to go, or do you wanna stay and comment on
I
the
do
stories?
have
I'll
to
let
run. I got to get her. I
you
got a
gotta
flight
go?
in
Okay.
90 minutes, so I have to blow. But
Thank you for being here on the Nikki Medoro Show. Hopefully, you can come back when Nikki is around as well. We love
yeah, and big
you.
love to Marley and Nikki's little girl
Yes,
getting some surgery today.
absolutely.
She's a tough, beautiful kid. She'll be great.
She's funny and smart and just great, and I'm sure she's gonna be okay.
And all our love to Nikki
Yeah.
and James, and as they move all through that. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Hey, Kim, great to
Thanks,
see you. You
Chip.
look wonderful. Thank
Bye.
you.
You too. Bye. Chip Franklin, everybody. Yet another character from the old KGO days, and I thank him for being here, and thank you as well for all the love you showed Chip Franklin in the chat. Very nice of you. So let's do a little bit of news. There's some news stories out. Apparently, a district attorney in New Mexico will be announcing tomorrow whether charges will be filed in the accidental shooting on the set of Rust. Remember that one? Alec Baldwin struck and killed cinematographer Helena Hutchins with an antique revolver during a dress rehearsal for that movie. That was in 2021. A written statement set to be released later today, and so it may already be out. And so we'll find out exactly what's going to happen and whether and who charges will be filed against in that situation. The National Archive says the Justice Department has to give the green light before it releases more information on President Biden's handling of classified documents to Congress. So National Archives is waiting for their cue from the Justice Department. All this. House Republicans on the Oversight Committee are requesting all the documents and communications between the archives and the White House related to this discovery. The archive says it will share the information after consulting with the DOJ to ensure that it doesn't interfere with the special counsel investigation. President Biden and other leaders are speaking out on the helicopter crash that killed the Ukraine's interior minister and at least 17 other people. The president and the first lady offering their condolences, saying they grieve with all of those who are mourning this heartbreaking tragedy. The NATO Secretary General said the helicopter crash in a suburb of Kyiv is a new tragedy for a country that has suffered almost a year of war. And really, some kind of controversy in Davos, Switzerland at the World Economic Conference as Vladimir Zelensky spoke today. and talking about whether or not that helicopter crash was an accident. So that's something we'll be following as well. There is a former Minnesota police officer convicted of murdering George Floyd, set to know now within the next 90 days whether he'll get a new trial. Lawyers for Derek Chauvin appearing in court to argue the location of the original trial, and a juror who attended a march related to the case, whether that should be grounds for a new trial or not. It'll be interesting. The state claimed Chauvin was treated fairly and all jurors were vetted. His lawyer's not so sure. So again, within the next 90 days, we'll know whether we'll have to go through all that again, or he will. The Washington, D.C. City Council is making changes to reduce mandatory sentences for certain violent crimes. Reducing sentences. The council recently overrode a veto by Democratic Mayor Muriel Bowser of the revised Criminal Code Act. The bill now going to Congress, where federal lawmakers will review it. It's something that's mandatory, of course, in the District of Columbia. And tickets to this weekend's NFL playoff games are setting fans back quite a bit of cash. 3 of the 4 games rank in the top 4 most expensive division round games ever. At the top of the list, you got it, Sunday's marquee matchup between the 49ers and the Dallas Cowboys, with an average secondary market price of more than $1,400. And that is the news. It is sponsored by tax attorney Steve Moskowitz at 888 Tax Deal. If you need help with your taxes, Steve has been doing this for more than 30 years, and he is good whether you're an individual or whether you need to file as a business. So know exactly what's right for you. You can reach Steve at 888 Tax Deal or at moskowitzllp.com. There was a story that I saw earlier about what the germiest area in your kitchen is. So I was hoping in the chat that we could talk about it. What do you think is the germiest area of your kitchen? When I saw the headline, I was thinking maybe the cutting board area. Maybe people don't wipe down the cutting board enough. Maybe the sponge. I don't know. What do you think? Let's see what you think in the chat, and then I'll give you the answer. I wish I had Mark's music, but that's okay. Sponge in the sink. Anonymous. Yeah. Mindy Lee says it's the counters. Perry Joe Jim Bob says it's the sink. Okay. Let's see. Meredith Dannenberg sink. Sink, sink, sink. Sponges are so gross. Fridge handles. Ooh, fridge handles. Yeah. Got to keep those clean. Fridge handle. Microwave door. That's a good one. The drain. You always think it's the drain. I don't know. Okay, so a couple of you got it right. It is. Let's see if I can click on one. It is the. You ready? Bum, bum, bum. See if I can find the one that is the correct answer here. Yeah, Nemen. It's the spice bottles. Your spice bottles are the germiest area of your kitchen. I was flabbergasted by this. Couldn't believe it. So let me share the story with you. It's crazy. I guess it makes sense if you think about where you're reaching and grabbing, why that would be. Maybe you don't wipe down your spice bottles or think to after you're done cooking. Here's the story. The germiest place in your kitchen, according to science, yeah, it is the spice area. It is festering with germs. Researchers, a professor in the Department of Food Science at Rutgers, led by Donald Schaffner, share the results of their study that measure the prevalence and degree of cross-contamination across a variety of kitchen surfaces during a consumer meal preparation event. And the place they found the highest cross-contamination was the spice jars. Not the counters, not the sink, not the cutting board, the spice jars. They asked 371 people making meals consisting of turkey patties, which had a certain type of bacteria, not harmful to humans, to use that as a tracing organism. And that is what they say. Half the participants were shown on video. Proper thermometer use, following the meal prep, they took environmental samples, looking at that cross-contamination. They said most surfaces, they didn't get more than a 20% hit. but the spice containers, 48% showed that cross contamination. They share the results. They say other measurements across surfaces were in line with other studies, but those spice jars, I'm telling you, got to watch out for that. That is super gross. I think the first thing I'm going to do when the show is over is go out and wash the spice jars off with a Clorox wipe just to make sure. I think you reach for it, you stick it back in the cabinet, never really thinking, and then you wipe down your counters, right? But do you ever wipe down the spice jars? Yeah. Fridge handle though, you guys freaked me out with that one. I'm gonna go wipe down that as well. Uh Interesting that you say this, Lady Beatrice. Can we check in with Ron Owens one of these days? I just talked to his wife last night. I was trying to get his wife and daughter, who have a wonderful podcast, to come on the show. And they're a little busy. They say he's doing well, but a little under the weather right now. So I have checked in with them about Ron Owens and how he's faring. So send him some good thoughts and make sure that that you're thinking about him and he's doing well. Yeah, Clark said it right. He's concerned about his voice and whether he sounds okay. So I think even if he was feeling healthy and well right now, he probably still wouldn't come on because like an athlete at the top of their game, they're always worried about how they sound or how they're playing or whatever. And Ron is worried about how he sounds, and I can get that. Although I would say Ron Owens, sounding a little crackly is probably better than just about anybody else. So our thoughts are with him. Mindy Lee says, "Yeah, Ron, I'm so told to buy new spices. Yeah, I think I'm just going to wipe down the ones I have." Perry Joe Jim Bob says, "I always wipe down the spice jars annually." That's probably why they're so germy, right? Mindy, is Ron not well? Yeah, he's not. He's feeling a little under the weather right now. So his wife was kind of by his side and didn't couldn't was not able to come on the show today. I'm hoping Nikki will come on though and check in from the hospital where her daughter is on the mend and doing a little bit better. So and send good thoughts to Ron Owens so that he can recover, get back to really good health. But I mean, he's okay. He's doing okay. Uh PT, pathogens die after a number of days when dry. Cross contamination that is important happens before that time. Yeah, still important though. I mean, and you think about all the health rules about where you're supposed to separate chicken and have it on one plate but not use it. When you think about all the goop that could be on your spice jars, it's just oogie. And I know that it dies after a certain number of days, kind of like COVID after a certain number of hours. I still don't necessarily want it on my spice jars, if you know what I'm saying about that. Kind of gross. Let's talk about rain in the Bay Area. We're getting a little bit more of it today, especially this evening between 5 and 7 p.m. And the rain totals are just amazing. According to SF Gate, the National Weather Service said Monday morning, its gauge at the San Francisco International Airport recorded 20.3 inches since October 1st. That is surpassing the average water for a year. That's wild. The 12-month period running from October 1st to September 30th. This site on average records 19.64 inches of water in a year. Already we're at 20.30. Water managers use the water year, which follows the water cycle, starting in the rainy season and running through the spring. This according to SF Gate, when the snowpack melts and the runoff flows into all of our streams, all of our reservoirs. So yeah, the measurements are showing this is really good news for us in our drought. Not so much right now for the hillsides and what we're seeing on our roadways, but they're saying that the gauge in downtown San Francisco is already nearing the annual average, 22.89 inches from October 1st to September 30th. As of January 16th, that site has picked up 21.75 inches since October 1st of 2022. That's 205% of normal. So we are doing really well with with getting enough rain to kind of make a dent in our drought, still creating all kinds of problems. I showed this picture earlier, but I wanted to make sure everyone had a chance to see it. This is the type of damage that we are talking about. This is roadway in the Santa Cruz area. I believe it's Glen Creek. I have to double check on that. But yeah, look at that damage. It's amazing to me. I just, and you look at the landslides in people's homes and uh, what has happened around the Bay Area. While on one hand we needed the rain, whew, this is rough. This is Glenwood Drive in the Santa Cruz Mountains. Jim Owens took this picture, so photo credit to him. Yeah, Glenwood Drive in the Santa Cruz Mountains. Oof, can you even imagine? So, we've seen lots of storm damage, as Mark was talking about earlier, the Capitola Wharf. We've seen flooding. We've seen flooding in Gilroy. We've seen landslides in Berkeley. We've seen roads and sinkholes from Highway 92 to Highway 1. A lot of people have sent pictures of damage from their homes. So while I know we need the rain, I'm a little frightened of what's yet to come. It looks like Glen Canyon, no, Glenwood Drive, huge in Japan. Thank you. I'm sorry, I misspoke. My bad. I'm sorry. This is a question from Karen D. Do you think this would cause more people to leave the Bay Area, these mudslides? I don't think so. I think wildfires and drought probably would cause more people to leave the Bay Area than mudslides. Maybe I'm wrong on that, but the mudslides usually happen where the burn scars are in all the wildfire zones. Sometimes not. Like in Berkeley, we saw at least 5 homes red tagged in that area. I don't know if I would leave for a risk of mudslides, but I do think about it when I see a home for sale. I, look at where it's located, look at, whether there's a hill nearby, whether the slide could cover the house, whether the house could slide down, as I've been sent to stories in Sausalito to just see whole homes sliding right down hillsides. So that's pretty scary to me. Yeah, the old Christopher Ranch in Gilroy was underwater. It's just off 101 near Highway 152. I saw that. Amazing. It is you know, it's crazy how fast it happened as well. I was looking at a picture. Someone put a picture up of the bridge in Sacramento, the Golden Bridge right near the Capitol, and they showed the water level before the storm started and the water level now. It's like it looks like it's this far. I'm sure there's a lot more space than that below the bridge, but it looks like all of our rivers and streams are so full. The Petaluma River, you drive by and it just looks like it's at capacity. So these are good things. Yeah, drought and fires for sure, says Mindy Lee. I think that's why. I knew a woman, says John Slade, who left California because of the '89 earthquake. I wonder if she'd grown up here. I think for people, and this is just my own personal opinion, just kind of what I've noticed, people that didn't grow up in California are freaked out about earthquakes. My husband grew up in Michigan. He is so prepared for an earthquake. We've got earthquake insurance on the house. We've got, he's afraid something's going to happen. He's got the emergency pack. Whereas Californians, we know it's going to happen. We don't tend to be freaked out about it all. We tend to kind of take it more in stride, maybe. So I wonder if, and the '89 earthquake was no joke. We know that. But I wonder if that was all she could take. Like, that was scary enough for her to go because she didn't grow up with the earth releasing a little pressure here and there and all the little ones. I don't know. Huge in Japan says, I'm a Scotts Valley native. It matters. Earthquakes, Mindy Lee says, leave worthy. I don't think you're right. Well, okay. So you might be right for you, right? Maybe earthquakes for you are leave worthy. For me, and a bigger earthquake doesn't happen that often. Maybe once every what? 10, 15, 20 years. It's not like in other parts of the country where, you get major storms or tornadoes that are a yearly occurrence. I just feel like for me it's not leave worthy. Clark Reed, hi Clark Reed, I should have you on the show. Come on. Highway 99 north of Lodi closed both directions yesterday underwater. William Martinez says, I live in a burn scar on a ridge. The property is paid for. I'll die here. Yeah, unless you get a landslide, right? Clark, I'm sending you a link to hop on the show just in case you can, because I wanted to actually, because I know you love tech stories and everything like that. But I wanted to talk to you about a story about Microsoft layoffs to see what you thought about that. So I just sent you a link. If you have the time, hop on with me. Karen D says, a lot of people left during the '89 earthquake. I will not leave. This is my home, generations here and deep roots. And maybe that's what it is, Karen, because I'm from here. My family lives here. an earthquake, it probably isn't going to scare me away, although I know the risk. I know that there's we could see some damage. I know that I saw, what happened in that earthquake. I saw what happened on the Bay Bridge. I think that's one of the stories, along with the polyclass abduction, that mm, kind of fostered my interest in news and uh, telling the stories of the day and seeing the damage and getting the word out to people and getting information out to people fast, especially on the radio on an AM station. So, yeah, I I do understand why people would leave. It's just not something that I would do like you. Moved to Oakland, was a regional manager for a store chain I worked at. Hmm. Are you talking about during the earthquake, John? That's interesting. Eric says the last earthquake bad enough to wake me up. I rolled over, went back to sleep. That's really it. I think the last earthquake I was sent out to cover was the Napa earthquake. I felt it. My son was an infant, and I ran to make sure my kids were okay. Everybody was sleeping fine. No one else felt it. And then I went out to Napa and I saw all the damage. And I can understand why, if you were affected by an earthquake, it would make you not want to go through another one. I do understand. Uh, yeah, Perry Joe Jim Bob, try buying home insurance in Tornado Alley or in Florida. Yeah, that's interesting. Clark, grew up in Kansas, 100 tornadoes a year. I'm cool with earthquakes after that. Clark, that's what I'm saying, is that you can bank on tornadoes coming through every year, right? You don't know when the earthquake's coming, and maybe to some people that makes it more ominous. It makes it like this unknown just lurking under the surface that no one can ever really figure out. But to me, like, mostly it's, little ones, like a 2.4 on the magnitude scale, 3.3, that the earth just letting off pressure and no damage really done. So, when we get these larger ones, they're so few and far between. Well, I know they say the big one's always coming, but I get it. Different people in different state that grew up in different states, they always have different opinions on this whole thing. Nemin says, I'm from New York, used to freak out too, but not anymore after so many years here. Yeah, maybe you kind of get used to it and it's just okay to you. JR says, I went through many tornadoes in Michigan. I prefer earthquakes. I mean, if you have to have a preference, yes, exactly. Cheryl says, I grew up in Minnesota and I thought after the 89 earthquake wasn't a big deal initially. I made my daughter go ice skating. I was used to tornadoes. It wasn't until later when I saw all the damage. And I guess it depends on where you were during that earthquake, depending on how big of a deal. When I felt it, I knew that we were dealing with something pretty big. And I kind of thought that was the case. Oh, Clark Reed is joining. Would love to hear you, Clark. Yes, Clark, of course, one of the news people on KGO. And here he is. Ooh, that's kind of a cool picture. Hi, Clark Reed. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yes. Hello.
How you doing?
I am doing okay.
I haven't talked to you for a while.
I have been lurking here, just checking out the show and everything.
Okay.
So
I like it. I love that you're involved, and I should have been, actually was thinking yesterday that I should be inviting you on. So I'm super glad that you came. Did you hear about the layoffs at Microsoft? I guess they're going to lay off 10,000 people.
Oh yeah, I reported on that on my tech blog this morning that is already posted. So yeah.
How can people find your tech blog, by the way?
It's just Clark Reed SF on YouTube.
Okay. Oh, okay, cool. So that's cool.
Yeah.
Check it out, everybody. You can hear Clark Reed too. So
yeah, that was the lead story today. I mean, that's a biggie.
It is a biggie, and it's just another in this kind of line of dominoes of tech companies that are laying people off. So what does it say about what's happening in the tech world?
Well, I think that it's just an adjustment. I mean, 10,000 compared to their overall employment is not a large number. Yeah. And like a lot of the other tech firms, they're giving really generous benefits for 6 months, your stock vesting and, your pay and all of that. So, and healthcare. So, I mean, they're taking pretty good care of their people, but I think they're just adjusting. They did this back in 2013. They laid off 13 or 14,000 people back then. So it's not the first time they've ever done this.
It may be that I'm more sensitive to it because of getting laid off at
Yeah.
KGO.
Yeah.
But I just like the first thing that hits me when I see 10,000 people are
Yeah.
losing their jobs is
Yeah.
like, oh, not them too. Now
Yeah.
look at all of us here floundering
Yeah.
together. So, you know,
And you love it. I mean, it was so ironic when that happened at Station X because,
yeah.
as usual, when they did it, we had the highest ratings we'd had in a year, which is typical. And now they have like a 0.2, which is
Yeah.
almost non-existent. Which even non-radio people go, "Oh, that's not
Oh,
good." And
oh.
it's like, yeah, exactly. But
It's no bueno.
but this is some of us. It's happened so many times in the business that
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, okay, we know, you know. So that's what we
Yeah,
do.
it is radio, and people ask, "God, were you so surprised?" And it's like, in radio, you always kind of
Yeah.
sleep
Yeah.
with one eye open, not
Yeah.
really knowing what's
Yeah.
happening. And so,
Yeah.
were you surprised? Yes and no,
Yes, of
right?
course. But it's one of those things. And I mean, you landed here, and
Yeah.
and Nikki, and which is great, and Mark, and I'm just doing my little tech blog online, and then I'm working at Network X doing traffic, where I
Okay.
worked, 12, well, where you and I met actually,
Yeah, yeah,
and so I'm doing a little fill in for them just to keep from going crazy.
yeah.
Because I don't have a garden. I don't have a yard. I mean, I'm sorry. So,
You do
you
have a
know,
cat though, so that's okay.
yeah, I do have a cat, and I try to keep him from, I have him pretty well trained. He doesn't tend to meow if he sees the microphone and the headphones. He tends to,
Oh,
I've
they
got
let
him
you
pretty
work from
well.
home?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. The home
That
studio here and everything. So, yeah.
that is so good.
No,
Um,
I worked from home for 2 years mainly, when during COVID at
yeah,
Station X. So, yeah, you know,
that's good.
so I have the
I
whole setup, control board and all that jazz.
Well, who knows? I might be
Yeah.
right behind you.
Yeah.
Okay, let me throw a couple more tech stories at you
Sure.
because
Mhm.
I saw the story today that more than 500 advertisers have stopped spending on Twitter since Elon Musk bought that company
Yes.
last year.
Yes.
So this is from a newsletter called The Platformer, and
Mhm.
they reported yesterday that Twitter's ad revenue is down 40% from about the same time last year.
And
Ugh.
I bet I bet it's worse than
You
that.
think so?
I really think it's worse than that. Yeah. I I get on Twitter and I'm seeing the same advertisers over and again, and coming from radio, I go, okay, he's bonusing them and running freebie spots because, he
Yeah,
doesn't have enough advertisers because
yeah.
they've all bailed.
Ouch.
And why wouldn't you with all of the trolls and all the people that he's let back on the platform? I mean, that's the reality of it.
Yeah, and there's another story today, though this one I think we already knew about,
Mhm.
that Twitter has now hired an auction house to get rid of all the stuff, and they're
Yes.
talking about, the neon sign that with the
Yeah.
corporate Twitter
Yeah.
bird logo.
Right.
It is now, currently the bid is $17,500 for
Right.
that Twitter bird, but they're trying to offload the espresso
And
machine.
they have an at sign, they have
Yeah.
office chairs. It's ridiculous. It's really goofy. So
I
yeah.
do need a new office chair, maybe I'll check out the
There you
Twitter
go.
auction.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's a new Apple HomePod, the new generation of the HomePod. Do you
Yeah,
have one of those?
theoretically they're coming out with that. No, although I'm tempted if they come out with the new higher one, the $100 one sounds like garbage. It's not good.
Oh,
The original one sounds magical, but the thing was, 400-500 bucks by the time you get into it. And who wants to
yeah,
do that? Well, now they're talking, yeah, maybe 250 bucks. I'm going, okay, and it will have a screen on top
oh,
that you can actually, do some of the controlling from that without
mhm.
having to go through, hey, S lady, and, or doing it through the app on your phone and all of that kind of jazz.
Yeah,
But so that's tempting. I might spring for that one.
they say it retails for $299, and they're comparing it to Amazon's
Hmm.
Echo and the Google Nest products.
Right.
They say you can create smart home automations using
Yes.
Siri, checking your temperature, playing music. It's currently available to order, but it won't be at your house on your doorstep until mid-February, early
Right.
February. What
Right.
I'm wondering is, and see, we had the original Google, uh,
Hmm.
where
Yeah.
you say, "Hey
Good.
Google, play
Yeah.
whatever."
Yeah.
We had it plugged in only for a week or so because
Uh-huh.
my husband, who is a tech guy like you are,
Mhm.
was really concerned about security and about it listening to
Yes.
everything we said.
Absolutely. My son does IT for the Muskrats car company, and he's
Okay.
the same way with that. He's real iffy about having a device like that in his house. And I
Yeah.
mean, this is a guy who builds computers for friends and stuff in his
Mhm.
spare time, and he's really into this stuff. And he said, "Nah, I don't want that." And I go, "Okay, well,
Sometimes even on my phone, I'll say something and
yes."
then all of a sudden I get an ad and
And
I'm
you,
like, is it listening to
and
me?
you get
Like
served an ad like 10 minutes, 15 minutes later that had to do with that. And it's like,
you're like, wait a minute.
yeah,
Yeah. So
yeah,
I don't know. And it turned out when we had the Google thing that we
hmm
would be constantly unplugging it. My husband would be
exactly.
constantly unplugging it. So then,
Sure.
like, what's the point of even having
I
it?
know. Yeah.
So on one hand, I love the thought of, when you see like a futuristic movie when someone walks into the house and they say lights on,
Hmm.
or whatever. I like the thought of that, but the reality of what that actually means to your privacy and everything else kind of
Yeah.
gives me the heebie-jeebies.
Well, look at Bill Gates. I mean, Gates, when he built that mansion that he built up in the Seattle area,
Yeah.
they have little badges like Star Trek. And when you walk through a certain area, it changes the lighting and the music depending on who you are.
Oh,
And
really?
he built that into the house,
That's interesting.
which is really trippy.
Yeah, that's kinda cool.
It's
I
like
mean,
chirp, 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 computer, do this and such, and it will. I mean, and this is before Siri or Hey Google or any of them.
yeah.
So
Yeah, I still like as cool as that is, I still
yeah.
worry about what it means to, just being able to live without someone peering into your business.
And
Not that anything is going on weird over here, but
another thought about it. But your kids, which
yeah.
I've met your anyway,
Mhm,
and I have grandkids,
mhm,
and I mean they have never known anything but this in their lives
yeah,
in the world. I mean, the youngest one of mine is a teenager now, and you know, she had an iPod when she was 3 years old,
yeah.
which my daughter, who's a tech person, brilliantly put a an expired credit card on it, so the kid could download games but couldn't download anything that cost money, which I thought was kind of brilliant.
It
But
actually is.
those kids have lived with their phones and with computers their whole
Yeah.
lives. They don't know any different. And
What's
I think
interesting you bro I'm sorry, go ahead.
no, that's it.
Oh, I was, what you said made me think of my daughter, my 13-year-old daughter,
Yeah.
Julia, who recently got her phone taken away,
Uh
and is
oh.
I was one of these moms who are like, "I'm not gonna give my kid a phone," and
Yep.
then
Yep.
every kid had a phone, and most of them
Yeah.
had it a
Yeah.
couple years before she did.
Yeah.
So finally broke down and got her a phone, and that's the way they all communicate, they
Hmm.
text with each other, what
Yes.
have you. But, she was not being a good digital citizen
Oh
and
boy.
not paying attention to what type of things she was texting. And
Hmm.
so, and I thought to myself, we all make some decisions that maybe not aren't so good sometimes. She's a great kid.
Hmm.
Uh, but how the world has changed and how that wasn't around when I was growing up
No.
and how I probably would have made some of the same mistakes as we all
Yeah.
kind of try to navigate
Well, my daughter
how
did
to
the same
learn
thing. Her
technology.
girls
Yeah.
were about the last two in their group to get phones. She
Yeah.
just really didn't. But they all, like you say, they all communicate. That's how they
Yeah.
communicate. So what do you do?
I still
You know?
won't let my daughter have social media. Have read in more than once
Hmm.
from more than one source that especially girls
Yeah.
who are on social media, like Instagram and all the
Yeah.
new social media they're using, are more likely to suffer from depression,
Yeah.
are more likely to self-harm, and are more likely to kill themselves.
I'm
So,
not surprised. I mean, that she
yeah.
let her girls when they were 14 get a Facebook account, but
Mhm.
they rarely use it. They don't use it very much except for
Yeah,
family. They have a real limited universe of people who are on their account.
yeah. Well, only old people are on Facebook now, so
That's true. I talked about this in my blog this morning. I talked about uh, Discord just bought Gas, which is an app for teenagers to use in their school to they can take surveys, and it's intended to try to build up their confidence, not tear them down. It's designed for that. It's only been out 6 months, something like that. And I said in the blog, I said, and for you that don't know what Discord is, ask your kids or grandkids, because they're on it, and nobody in our age groups, are on Discord really. It's started out with gamers.
That's true. Speaking of old people, and I had done this story earlier, but did you hear that former President Trump wants to get back onto Facebook? Speaking of old people on Facebook.
Oh dear.
They sent a letter, his people, to Meta yesterday, saying they would like his account to be unblocked, please. They want back on. The campaign is really who's behind this. They say banning Trump's account has dramatically distorted and inhibited the public discourse. I tend to think it's the other way around.
It's going to distort like crazy if he gets back on. That will be, and I don't know that they'll do it. They might. I mean, I could see
they
them
say
doing
they'll
that,
make a decision in the coming weeks.
Yeah,
but I was telling Mark earlier, that without Trump on Twitter and Facebook, you haven't heard every day. The story hasn't been, well, former President Trump tweeted today, or former President Trump on Facebook said today. It's like, thank God I haven't had to hear that. Because every day it was something more ridiculous.
Well, more and more are pulling away from him. I mean, now the Huckabees have both kind of distanced themselves. In fact, the new governor she would not come out and endorse him or saying whether she'd even support him or not. So Sarah Huckabee, who's the new governor, and her dad had already kind of done that. Okay. So I think more and more are pulling away and finding out this guy's kind of poison for us. And he lost the 2020 election and 2022. Let's get the heck out of here. And
what other cool tech stories have you talked about on your blog that I might not know about?
Well, Apple is apparently dropping the Apple glasses idea, and they've got the AV, the goggles coming out, that are mixed reality. That's coming out this summer, probably $3,000.
Oh, it's not like a really VR headset kind of thing?
Yes.
Or like the old Google glasses where they're worried about the video.
It looks like a diving mask. It's a mixed reality headset. Okay. But now the word just came out over the weekend that they have been working on a lower price version that may come out next year or 2025. That'll be more like the Meta one that's about $1,500. Use a little less expensive components, like it'll use iPhone chips instead of Mac chips in it and everything, but basically do the same thing. And they might actually sell some of those at $1,500, because you can, if you load up an iPhone, get the most expensive one and buy the most memory, you're at $1,500. So they might be able to sell the $3,000 one. I'm going, people aren't going to pay that.
I heard all the new MacBooks are coming out as well.
Yeah, you can order them now. Yeah, I love it. I have what I'm speaking to you through right now is an M1 MacBook, and now they have the M2s. However, I looked at all of the statistics yesterday, went over the whole thing, and it's 20% faster. That's about it. And I'm going, this thing's blazingly fast. It runs everything I need to run, runs all my complicated audio stuff, and I'm going, I'm good for a while.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Clark Reed, will you come back with us?
Yeah, absolutely.
I would love to have you back on the show talking about tech. Maybe even a weekly tech segment would be awesome with you. I would love to include you in this.
I used to do one on the radio until everything blew up, and and that went away. It went on a network, with 100 stations and everything, but that deal blew up too, so that's fine. So let me know.
Yeah. All right, I will do it. Thank you for just impromptu popping on with me today.
No problem.
Thank you, Clark Reed. I appreciate you.
Thanks a lot, Kim. Talk to you soon. And, if Nikki checks in, Marley, keep getting better, hon.
Oh, here she is right here.
Ah, hi there.
Nikki, you might be muted.
Yeah, Nikki's muted for me, but.
Yeah, she's muted for me too. I don't know why. Nikki, we can't hear you.
You look great, Nikki. Can't hear you, but you look fine.
She'll figure it out eventually.
Yeah, that's all right. Well, God bless her. That's a tough thing to go through. We had a former colleague that had that issue, and it's tough. It
is tough. Yeah, but I think everything is going to be okay as she logged off to log back on.
Okay.
Anyway, thank you, Clark.
Thanks for having me on the show.
Good wishes on to her. Thank you for being here.
Appreciate it. We'll talk to you again maybe soon. Take care.
Absolutely. Bye, Clark. That's KGO's Clark Reed. Absolutely. Who was the woman who left? That was Nikki Medoro. And here she is again.
I'm so easily forgotten. Sorry.
Clark Reed, was awesome, and I think we should have him on to do a weekly tech segment.
I like
But
it.
he says he wants to pass on his good wishes to you and Marley. So
Thank you, thank you, thank you. We
yeah,
appreciate all the messages. So
Nikki
yeah,
Medoro live from the hospital room. How are you, sister?
I miss my bed. Just to be
I
honest,
hear that.
I
You've been sleeping on
do.
that weird little cot for several days now.
Yeah, man, my back. I mean, geez, you feel every 40 something years old when you sleep on a chair bed for a week, let me tell you. So, but yeah,
I'll
so
tell you what.
hopefully we'll have some good news tomorrow and we can get out of here for a few days and then, yeah, and a big week next
Ah,
week. But we're slowly, every day is closer to the end of this nightmare.
how's
So,
she holding up, that girl of yours?
you know, she has my sense of humor. Let's just say that. She does have my sense of humor. Like I mentioned yesterday, she definitely asks all the questions as many
Hmm.
times as she needs to ask it, even if she asks it multiple times. She's on the
That's
other side of
okay.
my phone making fun of me. Don't make me turn the camera around on you, kiddo. But no, we're trying to keep our spirits up. So she's feeling
Oh, you're freezing again, but I learned yesterday to be patient because even when you freeze, you're probably going to be back in about 20 seconds. So I don't know if you can hear me, but I just saw this story on
shut.
CNN. Oh,
No, I
there
can't.
you
Am I
are.
back? Sorry.
Yeah, now you're
Yeah, that's
back.
gonna happen.
That's okay.
Hospital Wi-Fi sucks, so we're
It's okay
trying.
because it's only a couple seconds. It seems a
Yeah.
little like, 20 seconds, but it's like 10 seconds and you're back.
Okay, good.
There's a story on CNN Politics today.
Okay.
Says Trump is criticizing evangelical leaders for not
Ooh.
backing his 2024 presidential bid.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and these are the people that
Mm-hmm.
have been his solid base, right? That have been behind him the whole time. And they're like backing away just a little bit. Like,
They
how
got what
much
they
should?
wanted. They got what
Mm,
they wanted, Kim.
yeah.
They got
Is that what
exactly
it
what they
is?
wanted. They got Roe v. Wade overturned. Why do they need to stay with that sinner anymore? You know what I mean? So that's my opinion. I mean, that's what they were most concerned about. You ask evangelicals, what did they want to happen? They wanted an overturning of Roe v. Wade. And it happened. So they
Yeah.
don't need Trump anymore. Now, who are they going to support in 2024? That will be interesting to watch. But I wouldn't have touched Trump with a 10-foot pole from the beginning. But,
So Trump, the thing he values most in life is loyalty,
of
right?
course.
And so he's saying they are disloyal. The quote is this: "Nobody has ever done more for right to life than Donald Trump. I put 3 Supreme Court justices who all voted, and they got something they've been fighting for 64 years, for many, many years."
Oh, jeez.
There's great disloyalty in the world of politics, and that's a sign of disloyalty.
Oh, jeez, Louise. I mean,
Somebody
he
not happy.
he does pride loyalty over everything else. And the
Yeah.
minute, and we saw this when he was president, the minute anyone criticized him, kind of went against what he said, then he turned on them. And that is why Republicans fell in line so quickly because they knew that he had such a control over this base that was going
Yeah.
to vote or threaten politicians and all those sorts of things. The best news, of course, is that I think Trump's popularity is waning. Hopefully
Yeah.
that continues. But again, we have to see who actually officially throws their hat in the race for 2024. Obviously, people are saying DeSantis. I really don't like DeSantis. I think
Yeah.
that he's just not a politician that I could ever support. He had a party, apparently, like some sort of, I don't know. I was just reading a headline that he had a lot of supporters like Disney that were
Yeah.
donating to him, even though he's taken on Disney. I don't know what that says. On one hand, getting the support of people that you've talked out against, is that a good thing? I don't know, but it'll be an interesting 2024 presidential race. That's for sure.
Well, according to the director of the Freedom and Faith Coalition, which
Hmm.
has been close to former President Trump, he says there's no path to the nomination without winning the evangelical vote. Nobody knows that
Mm.
better than Trump because, to the surprise of almost everyone, he won their support in 2016. They say he's going to get a very fair hearing from the voters of faith. But if he's coming out now bashing them,
Mm.
then you don't really want to bite the hand that feeds you in this particular instance. So, hey,
Yeah.
if you want to bash your base, I say you just go ahead.
Yeah. I mean, bash the base. I think that when we're talking about evangelicals, and I'm not saying all of them, but for them to put aside their moral code to support someone like Trump after everything he said, did, how he talked about certain groups of people, Um, I wouldn't see them. I would see them as a voting bloc, maybe going whichever way the wind blows. But again, back to what I said before, they got Roe v. Wade overturned.
Yeah,
What else
yeah,
could they possibly want from the next president of the United States? That's kind of scary to think about, I guess. But I don't
yeah.
think they need Trump anymore. He can kick
No,
rocks.
you're probably right. As long as they maintain control of, one of the houses of Congress, they're all good. So I
Exactly.
had talked about this with Mark earlier,
Mm.
but I need to make sure that you're abreast of all the George Santos goings on.
Oh, Jesus.
There's a
Okay, lay it
story.
on me.
There's a story today that he took $3,000 from a GoFundMe. This veteran says was supposed to help me raise money for my dying animal.
Oh,
We raised
no.
more than $3,000 and then he took it and I haven't heard from him since. And George Santos is like, I don't even know who this guy is. I've never heard of this person. I don't know.
Is
But
there
this
any
guy's
sort of
like,
paper trail?
he took my $3,000 and walked away with it.
Is there a paper trail with this story? I mean, does he have anything that says that he had a partnership, a picture with George
I
Santos? I
don't
mean,
know.
I could see. Now, you know how I feel about George Santos. He's a
Yeah.
total liar. I don't think that he should be in office. But I also think that stories like this could, I'm not saying this is the case, but could bring people out of the woodwork and
Yeah.
be like, well, look, everyone knows he's a liar.
Yeah.
So if he's a liar, then we're good to go. I can say whatever I want and people will believe me and not him, because that's the problem with George Santos, is that people can say whatever and he's been dubbed a liar because he is. So no one's going to believe you even if you're telling the truth, and that's the bed that Santos has made for himself.
Yeah.
So that guy just needs to get out of politics. You would think it'd be hard to find a bigger liar. Like, there's a bunch of liars, right, in Washington, D.C., but he kind of takes the cake right now. And he is the face of just, lying, faking it until you're making it. I mean, he made it. He's just going to dodge those questions. And he's probably hoping the news cycle changes really quickly.
Oh, that's so funny. I'm seeing some donations come in, so I just want to thank
Oh,
everyone for that, the kindness that you're showing. Again, you can donate via a super sticker or via here on YouTube. You can go
yep.
to the nikkimedoroshow.com and you can do it that way. We've got a Patreon all set up for just a low monthly donation. You can support the show. Also, PayPal if you want to
Yep.
just kick in that way. We appreciate it. And if you don't want to fork over the cash, that's fine too. Just click that like button and Nikki and I will appreciate that as well. Okay, I'm gonna throw a stupid story at you. You ready
Oh,
for this
please.
one?
I love these are my favorites. Yes, please.
Okay. Just in time for Valentine's Day.
Okay.
Heart you. The Bronx Zoo in New York City is bringing back its popular Name a Roach gift promotion. For $15, you get to name a Madagascar hissing cockroach. If you'd like to go all out, you can
Uh-huh.
spend $75 to get you a tumbler, a tote bag, and a virtual visit with a roach. Ew.
Why
Officials
roaches?
say money raised will go toward improvements at the zoo. I don't know why roaches.
Why roaches? I mean, is there any, maybe because they have so many of them? Now, okay, hold on. So for $15, is that what you said? You
15
could,
bucks you get to name a Madagascar hissing cockroach.
how is this like naming a star where they're just like, yeah, it's that one? I mean,
Yeah.
do I get like, is the Madagascar roach branded in some way so I can visit my roach? I mean, is there any sort, or is this like kind of the George Santos of Valentine's Day promotions where you're just taking my $15 and I'm not really getting anything for it? I mean, am I just supposed to believe that this roach is named? I mean, this seems ridiculous. I don't know. No,
Uh,
don't do that. That's not love.
I feel like though they've really wasted an opportunity here
Okay.
because what it should have been was like they should have manufactured a breakup day or a divorce day or something, because you don't want to name a Madagascar hissing cockroach after someone you love. Like, is it the James cockroach? Is it the David cockroach? No, you name a roach after someone you don't like, right? There's a lot of people. Oh, there she is.
There I am.
She's yeah.
What was the missed opportunity? I lost you right when you said that. What did you
I
think
was
was?
saying that they should have invented like a divorce day or something else. Like you name a roach after someone you don't like, not after someone you love.
Yeah, like you're a roach, or
You're a
you're
roach.
just, or it won't die, or whatever. Oh yeah.
Ew.
I mean, nothing says love like that, right? I mean, give me a
I mean,
break.
you name a roach after your ex-husband, not your
There
current
you go.
husband.
Yeah. Although, I mean, don't they say like roaches are the one thing that will never die, even in like a nuclear fallout or something like that? So it
That's
could be like our
true.
love will never die, like this roach won't when the world goes to hell in a handbasket. I mean,
Yeah.
that would just pull at my heartstrings so much, so much.
I don't know. Um, okay, so let's talk about the weather. We
Okay.
just showed a
It's
picture
nice
of
today.
it is nice, although we're supposed to get rain, a little bit of rain this evening. The
Okay.
rain totals for the Bay Area, amazing.
Okay.
Already we're hitting now what we had in all of last year. So we're
Oh,
making a huge dent in the drought, but we're still seeing more storm damage. Yesterday we talked about the Fort Funston things sliding
yes.
down and so there's always a risk still, even days after, of storm damage. How are you guys doing in the South Bay? Everybody okay down there?
I mean, again, I haven't really left,
Yeah.
but I've been keeping an eye on the storm or like the rain because we have this creek right outside our window here in the hospital. And it was raging on Saturday. So it's a little, I mean, it's still moving, but not as much and not as fast. San Jose's been pretty good. I know
Yeah.
in the Santa Cruz Mountains, the Felton area, I mean, they're seeing what you're seeing in a lot of these coastal areas, these mountain
Mhm.
areas with a lot of the mudslides. And so we're doing good. I was reading, I think yesterday, how this doesn't necessarily take us out of the drought. What's really gonna, we have to wait and see is how quickly our temperatures rise. And if we have all of this prolonged heat that melts down the snowpack and all of that sort of stuff or evaporates it, yeah, we could still have problems this summer. So, I mean, you would love it if all of this rain meant we didn't have to worry about things like that, but we're not out of the woods yet. So,
No, they're saying today is our final atmospheric river. So,
oh, good. Well, I'm tired of the atmospheric river. Can we just get like normal rain and then it just moves on? I want those like small bands that the meteorologist, it's a small band. It'll just move quickly through. Let's do those ones. Get a little bit extra rain, but not so much that people are losing their homes and World War II bunkers or sliding off hills or something.
ugh, I'll tell you what. Yeah, it's been hard to believe all the damage that
Mm,
that we've seen everywhere. So there was another story. I
mm.
saw it yesterday, and it is that congressional Republicans now want to launch an investigation into the origin of COVID.
Oh,
So
yes.
here we go again. Did it come from the market, the wet market? Did it come
Right.
from somewhere else? Do you think we've beaten this to death, or do you think we should still be digging?
I think there's nothing wrong with having definitive answers
Hmm.
unless a definitive answer cannot be found. And by definitive, I mean, yes, we have located it to kind of, the original point of origin. Obviously, we know Wuhan, China was where we believe, right, that it
Hmm.
came from. Um, but if we can't fully definitively answer it, my worry is that then just conspiracies will continue to grow and evolve in those sorts of ways. The problem with the pandemic, of course, is the erosion of people's trust in public health officials, epidemiologists, those that are tasked with finding these sorts of things. And that I think we need to fix, because it doesn't matter what conclusion they come out with. It
Hmm.
seems we're still going to have a large group of people who won't believe anything. They believe it came from, let's just say, the wet market, and that's that. The other wrinkle, and it's a huge one in this whole entire thing, is the fact that China is still not being forthcoming with their COVID information. And until we get that also under control, which is impossible, I mean, it's they get to decide and do what they want to do. There's always going to be this kind of blind spot. And it's unfortunate that this virus seems to come from an area of the world in which their government does not want to be transparent with
Yeah.
the information, even with the number of COVID infections and deaths. And if you're not going to have that, then there's always going to be this mistrust of any information surrounding the pandemic.
I mean, on one hand, I know that the more information you have about something, the better. The more you know about it, the better, so you can prevent it in the future. But on the other hand, I think to myself, doesn't matter. I mean,
Yeah.
yes, it does in one sense, but in the other sense, it's here to stay. We obviously all know that. Um, and I think we'll find out probably that it has led a lot more people to die because of long-term effects that we haven't even thought about.
Mm.
So it doesn't matter more than just what we have to deal with now. I mean, should we just kind of leave it in the past, know that it's here, move on with it as best we can?
No, I mean, I don't think we can, because I think what a lot of people have come to the conclusion of is this isn't the last pandemic we're going to see. So
Yeah.
if there's any lessons that we can learn that we haven't learned yet, then we need to know. I mean, if we could really figure out how this started, how it spread definitively. I mean, and I don't even know if that's possible, Kim, but if we can, then maybe we can either understand the warning signs of something like
Mhm.
this happening again. We can maybe possibly see what this could evolve into, what variants could be coming, when we should start being concerned about certain variants. I mean, I know we've seen so many variants of COVID, but if it stays within, let's just say, Omicron or what have you, they tell us that we shouldn't worry as much. But all of these questions still need to be answered. At the same time, people need to trust the answers. And both of those things we just don't have yet. And so I do think that we should continue to work.
Mm.
If we're talking about doing an investigation into the origins of COVID to blame someone, to,
Mhm.
let's say, call out Dr. Fauci or do those sorts of things, if you're coming at, it's kind of like it's science, right? It's the scientific method. If you're coming at something with a predetermined idea of what.
Uh-oh, she stalled again. We'll wait her out because I know she's coming back, and then I want to ask her about pornography and porn noises. So we'll see if she comes back because I really want to talk to her about that. There she comes. I know what's happening. There
Okay,
you are.
okay, there I am.
Yeah.
What was the last thing I said? I don't even know. I
I
just
don't
keep
know.
talking. Okay. Well, I'm just
Yeah.
saying, if you come at it with a predetermined, like, it's because of Dr. Fauci's lies, if that's how you're coming at this
Right.
investigation, then it's total BS. But if you're really coming at it like, we need to know, and we're going to try to work towards a definitive answer so that this doesn't happen to the extent it did in 2020, then I'm all
Yeah.
for it. So, and it also matters who's running this investigation. I mean, all of those things matter.
So here's a story. You ready
Okay.
for this one? This is
Yes.
another wacky one. This happened in the UK. A prankster
Okay.
disrupted the coverage of a major sports cup show
Okay.
with sex noises from a porno.
Ooh.
So this is Match of the Day presenter Gary Lineker laughing off the moment sex noises transmitted by a YouTube prankster disrupted the show's live coverage. Noises from a porn clip heard as Lineker presented a pre-match build-up before the Wolves versus Liverpool fixture. A frenzied studio hunt. Can you imagine how they were running around trying to fix this? Uncovered a planted mobile phone. A YouTube prankster, Daniel Jarvis, claiming he was behind the stunt. The BBC apologizing to any users who were affected. But it was Lineker who tweeted a picture of the mobile phone taped to the back of a set. He said he thought there was nothing to apologize for. He called it a good prank, and he said, as sabotage goes, that was quite amusing.
It was just the sound. It wasn't like video. Like, kids weren't seeing pornography
No,
or
no, no, but they
anything,
were
right?
hearing it.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. I mean, you could fake it. You could do, like, I just feel like, if as long as it's not like being broadcast, because I can understand how absolutely traumatic and wrong that could be. But just the sounds, I would laugh. I would laugh. I think it's a pretty good prank.
You know what makes me laugh more than the sounds and more than people just looking at each other going, "What the hell's that?" is when they're talking about the frenzied running around, I can just see it. Like
Oh God,
all the
what does
people
this
that
sound?
work there are like, "Find it now, fix it now. What is that? Where is that coming from?" And people running here and there and freaking out.
I would
That
love
that
it.
part is funny to me.
Well, and the funny part is also watching how other people react to it, right?
Yeah,
Because it's like, who's really clutching their pearls about the whole thing? Who's completely laughing about it? Because at
yeah,
some point, everybody knows what they're listening to.
yeah.
And so, the, like, the prudish people are like, oh my God, the children's ears, which it's all fake. Come on now.
So, oh God, I want to ask you a personal question, but let me throw this other story at you first.
Okay. Okay.
This is something that we have been waiting for today because there's a press conference about Rust and whether the movie that Alec
Oh yeah.
Baldwin, yeah. So apparently now we know that any charges in the accidental shooting on the set of Rust are going to be announced tomorrow
Ooh,
by the DA in New Mexico. That is where Alec Baldwin struck and killed a cinematographer, Helena Hutchins, with an antique revolver during a dress rehearsal for that movie in 2021. They say a written statement is going to be released tomorrow. We thought it was coming out today. It looks like it's coming out tomorrow
interesting.
at 11 a.m. Eastern, so in the morning our time. But yeah, so we'll see if they'll file charges, and I think that'll be interesting to see if charges are filed, who they're filed against.
Yeah, I mean, I understand that Alec Baldwin pulled the trigger that
Hmm.
killed Helena Hutchins. I can't imagine if that was my wife, my family member, or anything like that. I think negligence, if I could, think something
Yeah.
like that, negligence. I mean, involuntary manslaughter, I don't think, but who knows? I mean, that has
Yeah.
to be frightening for Alec Baldwin. I'm assuming his name is on
Well,
the
I
table,
think he's
right?
one of the producers of the
Yeah,
show, and also the weapon was in his hand. But I
exactly.
think when you think back to the story and uncovering everything about it, they were cutting corners on all the people that
Right.
were supposed to be handling the props and supposed to be dealing with everything. So
Yep.
negligence, is something I would assume would be on the table. But I think you have to also talk about intent when you're talking
Yeah.
about charges when someone dies, and obviously it was an accident.
I mean, I don't think anybody thought that it was
Yeah.
real. Although there was, I mean, if I'm remembering correctly, there were complaints before the accident had happened that people were cutting corners.
Hmm.
Remember that all of these kind of support members of the movie were being sent far away and were not being, able to sleep close to the film, and so they were tired. There were some complaints beforehand. So could that fall on Alec Baldwin and its company, since again they were producing the movie? Possibly. Does that lead to jail time though? I don't know. I don't. I'd be surprised if we saw Alec Baldwin in handcuffs. Let's just put it that way. Yeah.
I have a surprise for you.
Okay.
It's Steve
Ah,
Moskowitz.
Steve, I'm so happy to see you.
I'm happy
Hey.
to see you too. How's everything coming along, Nikki?
We're hoping that maybe tomorrow afternoon, we can get out of here for a few days. Surgery is on the books for next week, which as a mom is nerve-wracking, but hopefully we can start a next chapter and just kind of dealing with
Uh,
everything. And
well,
it's tough.
my thoughts and prayers are
Thank
with you.
you.
And you know what? That's a million times tougher than tax. Tax is money and
That's,
numbers and
Well,
calculating, but then
yeah.
medical stuff,
yep.
that's
So
real.
that's what I was going to talk about when you talk about medical stuff. About what are the what's the situation with being able to write off medical costs,
That's a good
and
question.
what I know probably Nikki, you're looking at some money being shelled out here in copays or whatever else, and so how do you handle that? How do you deal with that?
So there is a tax deduction for that, but first of all, we're talking about the portion that's unreimbursed by insurance,
Hmm.
and then there's you can't deduct it from dollar one. There's a certain amount you have to go through first. So as a practical matter, most people now can't. However, if you can, then you have a situation where you can include a lot of things like, your transportation back and forth to the medical provider.
Oh.
And also in this situation, for most people, filing jointly or filing separately comes out the same. However, if there is a case for medical expenses, sometimes then you want to do married filing separately if one partner is paying for it, and then we can exclude the income of the other partner. So that's, when you actually have the numbers, that you go ahead and do.
Hmm. That's interesting information, Nikki. You keep that in your pocket. You
I
call
think
Steve
Nikki's
Moskowitz when you
frozen.
need it. Oh, she's frozen up again. Yeah,
Yes, just the thought of taxes freezes up.
yeah, and I know sometimes taxes and money, you think that the health is on your mind most of the time when you're in the hospital or going through something like that. But I think sometimes, and I was reading a story the other day, Steve, that more Americans are actually delaying going in for treatment and things like that because of money. So money is a
Oh,
whole factor in this
it's
whole thing.
real. It's a big factor.
Yeah.
I feel for the people that have to choose between food and medicine.
Right.
And look at all the medical tourists now. They're going to foreign countries.
Hmm.
And I can't speak for the medical in foreign countries. I don't know if it's better or worse, the same, whatever. But people are
Yeah.
going to the other side of the world to have medical procedures done because there it cost us so much less. But yeah, a lot of people don't get medical treatment or even medical insurance because of the cost. That's a big deal.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think all employers should pay for that. I pay for the medical for my employees, and I
There we
think
go.
employers should.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, I think it's the right thing to do. Interestingly, in San Francisco, they have the whole system, the SF Medical Reimbursement Administration, SFMRA, which I
Mhm.
think is kind of interesting. And I think the rules are if you're a part-time worker without medical coverage in San Francisco, where your employer's not paying for medical coverage, the company has to put aside some payments to this SFMRA fund so that you have some type of coverage.
Those are all thoughts. And again, Nikki, very seriously, heart and prayer out to you. Hopefully
Thank you.
everything will be fine. She'll come back, better than perfect. Well, the next Olympics,
Exactly.
we'll see her running around some track.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's what we're hoping for. And honestly, Steve, Kim, everybody that's part of the show, I've just been appreciative of all the notes and support because
Yeah.
it's something you want to go through, but it helps when you have friends. So I appreciate
Yeah.
it.
Steve, do you want to talk about anything taxi?
Yeah,
Ooh,
the other
taxi.
thing that's such a big deal is that people that just can't pay their taxes. That's
Yeah.
such a common problem. And what I want to say to those folks is don't make the mistake of sticking your head in the sand. And the IRS is getting heavy-handed again. Now remember, they're in the process of hiring these new 87,000 IRS agents. And these people have to do something. And President Biden was very specific. He said for every dollar he invests in the IRS, he expects multiple dollars back, which is understandable. And look at all the money that's being given away.
Yeah.
With all these, like my beloved ERC program and the PPP before that, and even other programs I've even talked about, RRF, which was just for restaurants. There was another program, excuse me, just for the performing arts. And, China's pretty much cutting off our credit card.
Mhm.
So the bottom line is, where's the money going to come from? It's going to come from us. Excuse me. So if you can't pay your taxes, there's a lot of good things we can do, like ask for an offer and compromise. That's where you only pay part and the government forgives the rest. That's a really big deal. You get a new fresh start. Or paying in monthly installments, getting the penalties forgiven. Sometimes that can be a lot of money. Having something called the hardship deferral, where something happens, like you lose your job, the business has a problem. What happens?
Exactly right.
That applies to me. Yeah.
Somebody has medical expenses, and you say, look, IRS, leave me alone for a while. When I get back on my feet, then we'll work something out. There's so much can be done. In almost all cases, we can do everything for you. You don't have to talk to the government, deal with them, have anything to do with them. We do the whole job.
Awesome. Steve Moskowitz, we always appreciate you being here and your kindness, and you're
Thanks,
such a
guys.
lovely person.
Oh,
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, thanks for hanging out.
Wait, I have to sing my song.
Oh.
MOSKOWITZL.com.
And of course 888 tax deal, the way to get to Steve as well. And if you do have questions about taxes or you need help with taxes, he's really the one to call, honestly.
Absolutely.
So
Thank you,
yeah.
Steve.
Thanks,
we love
Steve.
you.
Thanks, guys. Love
Thank
you too.
you. Bye.
Bye.
I'm like, wait, I have to sing my song.
Thank goodness for Steve Moskowitz making all this
Oh
possible.
my God, he's so awesome.
Yeah, we have a lot of people showing love for you in the chat
yes.
room. Although Eric says we need national health care. No one
We
should
do.
worry about going bankrupt from medical expenses.
It's
We're talking
ridiculous.
about how people are putting off medical procedures because of the worry about money.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
I was watching this, and it's old, but it was this interaction between Cindy McCain, not Cindy McCain, the daughter. Why am I
Megan.
thinking
Megan.
Megan.
Yeah.
I was thinking Cindy McCain. Megan
Mhm.
McCain and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, they were on The View together. And so it was an older one because McCain was still on it. And, she was like, what about Medicare for all? How are you going to pay for it? How are you going to pay for it? And, obviously AOC was talking about, taxing the wealthy and things like that.
Mhm.
But the point that really resonated with me is people fight to defend a system that is not working.
Yeah.
Like it's as if people are like, this S-hole situation that people find themselves in every single day is not working, and that they hold on to it because it's all that we know, and they're so scared of socialism. You're scared of socialism. People are bankrupt on the street, dying because we don't have some sort of national healthcare system. That's insane. And I
Yeah.
don't know why people just can't get over that and realize we need a better system in this country.
Yeah. I agree with you. Celeste is asking about Marley. She says, thinking about your daughter not eating for days. Is she at least getting Jello and popsicles?
Nothing. She's not.
No.
She only gets to drink one boost, which is like a supplement drink, one
Right.
boost a day. She is on all nutritional IV. It's called a TPN. But she's off of it right now. So we're trying to get her TPN bag cycled down to 12 hours so that she can go to school and until her surgery and things like that. And so this is one of her squishmallows. Do you want to be on?
Squishmallows.
No. Okay, she doesn't want to be on. She's not gonna do it. But she is the squishmallow queen, and she's been getting a lot of gifts and things like that. But yeah, so right now she's down to getting her TPN bag in 14 hours. They just disconnected her, so she'll get it back on later on tonight, and then
Okay.
hopefully all the levels look good and she can. Are we showing off all the squishmallows?
The
Apparently
squishmallows.
this
Okay.
is Stavon. Okay.
Okay.
But
They
yeah,
all have names now.
you have no idea. They become, this is peanut butter.
Okay. Oh, that's cute.
That's one of her favorites. I mean, her friends have come and dropped off gifts for her.
So
They've been
nice.
delivered. This is ginger snap. I mean, do you guys care about this? Because this is happening. There we go. That's ginger snap. There you go, Marley. So it's been interesting, but yeah, we're optimistic that her levels will be good. It's her sugar
Yeah.
levels, so it's not how she
Yeah.
feels, which is kind of difficult because you could feel fine, but if
Right.
you're it's just like, diabetics understand she has to have a finger prick several times a day and they
Mhm.
check her levels. So yeah, basically to answer your question, Celeste, no food. She's like, after my surgery and after I heal and after I can eat real food, she just wants to have all the foods that she wants, starting with a Subway sandwich. I told you guys the Subway sandwich story, that she wanted it. And then I told her we'd get it. And then I talked to her doctor and she had to go to the hospital and she had no more food. So it's like the food that she wanted last. And
Yeah.
so it's the one that she wants first.
Okay. I want to ask you, since we're on the mom beat right now, I want to
Yeah.
ask you a mom question.
Uh-huh.
It stems from an incident that I'm dealing with, but just in general, I won't go into the nitty gritty, although I know you're going to want to know
I'm
more.
going to want the details. Okay.
What do you think about when a child does something wrong?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they've done something wrong, maybe not, but you
Okay.
don't really know yet.
Okay.
The tendency of a mom to automatically take their child's side, back the child, without really looking into the matter and knowing whether or not their child was at fault. Like, is it something in us that's natural where we just want to defend our child no matter what?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, of course it matters. You're going to have to give me a little more details on this. It matters
Mhm.
what it is. The trick that I use, especially with my son, it works really, really well. And I say this to my daughter as well. I'm like, just tell me the truth. I'm like, it's fine. Just tell me the truth. Because
Right.
I look at them and I say, I will defend you until the day I die, but don't make me a fool.
Right.
Don't make me a fool, because then the next time I won't trust you. So just tell me the truth, whatever it is, and we'll deal with it. But I will be on your side. I will forgive you. Like, you don't have to worry that I'm just going to abandon you. But it's worse to erode my trust in you than
Yep.
anything you could have done.
Yeah.
So that's usually like kind of give them that space to, like, before you say anything, before you claim so much innocence, I want the full story. And
Yeah.
they're kids, and if they say that they're telling me the truth, I will back them up, and then time will tell, obviously, if they were lying or not.
Has it been your experience that the more a kid gets in trouble,
Mm-hmm.
the more a parent will defend that child?
Ew. I would say no. I would say, yeah, they probably did that.
I mean, wouldn't you think that, like, because I would think, if my child's getting in trouble all the time, at some point there's a realization setting in
Oh, that's
that,
interesting.
okay, my kid probably did what they're saying, so let's deal with the situation and move past it. But there are some parents out there that I think are really incapable of hearing anything negative about their child. And
You know
on
what? That's
one hand, I
interesting.
get
Yeah.
that, but on
Hmm.
the other hand, I think that's how we raise a generation of jerks, by not really addressing
Yep.
problems and getting into it, right? It's everyone else's fault, not the kid's fault.
There was a situation, and it was just a minor situation. I had an interaction with someone in my at my kid's school, and then I heard this story, and the kid is, mixed race. I don't know exactly what it is, but
Sure.
not white. Let's just say not white. And parents always defended the kid because there had been a history of maybe either discrimination or not being treated fairly. So then what happens? That kind of brings in a whole nother layer of, if you have a history of where teachers maybe aren't treating your kid properly,
Yeah.
you might be even more protective of them. And yet that kid can still do something wrong just like any other kid.
Right.
But because there might be this added layer of maybe unfairness, discrimination,
Right.
those sorts of things, I could see a parent becoming even more protective and being like,
Yeah.
you know what, my kid didn't do anything wrong. You're doing X, Y, and Z. So as a
Hmm.
parent, you need to, one, obviously, in my opinion, support your kid, defend your kid when necessary, but also understand still a kid. Even if they've experienced discrimination or whatever,
Yeah.
they can still also F up. And if you
Yeah.
don't nip that in the bud, they'll be the problem and not
Yeah.
just those other people. And so it has to be both.
So there's a situation, and this isn't the one that I had to deal with yesterday, but there's a situation recently. The school district where my kids attend,
Mm,
they issue every student an iPad. In
okay.
lower grades, maybe they'll use it for like a guided drawing instruction, or they do a program called Lexia where they learn about the alphabet and spelling and grammar, and there's some math programs on there. So it's a tool that not only are they learning how to use an iPad or technology, but then they're also getting some academic stuff out of it. And
Okay.
they don't use it very much. The screen time is very little, and I think in the lower grades you're not allowed to take it home.
Okay.
And from 3rd grade on, you can take it home. And during COVID, it was huge to have those iPads for all the
Of
students in the school
course.
district. So our children are in 3rd grade, and apparently, and there's supposed to be this thing called Google's walled garden, where no questionable content is
Material.
able to
Yeah.
seep through into your kid's iPad.
Right.
Well, this girl in my son's class was able to access YouTube, which she wasn't supposed to be on,
Hmm.
and they usually do the drawing programs on YouTube, but she was apparently able to uh, get some content that was a little questionable.
Like,
So it
like
seems, I don't know what it
what?
was,
Oh, okay. Okay.
but something she wasn't supposed to be seeing,
Okay.
and something that was made the mom mad. So I
Okay.
can imagine that it was sexy time something. I don't know.
Okay.
But the mom then takes to Facebook and says, "Why are our kids even having iPads in school? Like, first of all, your kid has had it since kindergarten or TK, and you're now in
Yeah.
3rd grade. You're just now getting mad about it
Yeah.
because your kid did something wrong, right?"
Right.
So I just, it's one of these things where she seems to be mad at the iPad and mad at the school district, but not the child who knew they weren't supposed to be on the program or
Hmm.
even using the iPad at that time. And so it's another one of these situations where, why can't we ever place the blame where the blame is due?
Yeah.
Do we have to defend the kids so much that it's everyone else's fault?
I think that that's how you're absolutely right. What you said before, that's how you're going to raise a bunch of jerks. And
Yeah.
maybe this woman that's now a mom was kind of raised the same way. Maybe she wasn't. I don't know. But yeah, I think that if my kid, for instance, got a letter sent home saying they were on YouTube when they were not supposed to be, there is
Mhm.
only one conversation I would be having, and that is with my kid. They're like, what
Right.
the hell? Like,
Right.
you're not supposed to be doing that. When you're at school, you're doing school stuff. And not
Yeah.
only that, you have access to personal computers at home. So it's
Right.
not as if you need to, utilize the school property. And I don't know about your school, I'm sure it's the same at your school. You signed a contract at the beginning of the school year that you would be
Mhm.
using this technology in the appropriate way. You broke that contract, and now you
Right.
should be in trouble, and there should be a consequence for it.
I mean, the kid knows that you're not supposed to be looking at YouTube at a certain time,
Exactly.
and they know
Exactly.
exactly that they're not supposed to be looking at inappropriate content. So
Mm,
I think that would be my first call, that what you had, the conversation that you just mentioned. And then my second call might be to the school's tech department or the
yeah.
school district's tech department saying, hey, walled garden fail.
Yeah. If
Somebody
if
fix
a
it,
third
right?
grader can get through your walled garden, it's
Yeah.
not very good of a wall. So, yeah, I would say
Although
so.
third graders are pretty good at technology, I have to
That's
say
the
that.
problem is these
Yeah.
kids know how to do they teach us, and that is not the way it's supposed to be. We're supposed to be 10 steps ahead, and it always feels like we're catching up. And I think that's
Yeah.
just always how it's going to be. Technology moves way quicker than any of the safeguards can be put in place.
Yep.
And I don't know if we can ever have it flip the other way. So we need to be aware and we need to be vigilant and watch these kids.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. I'm glad we had our mom conversation.
Yay, I
I
love
really
our mom's
appreciated
conversation.
that. So I'll throw another story at you. We'll go serious again because there's
Okay.
two stories regarding abortion in a row.
Okay.
Show's almost over, so we'll have to keep it quick. But
Okay.
Vice President Harris is making remarks in Florida Sunday to mark the 50th anniversary of the Supreme Court's Roe v. Wade ruling. The press secretary at the White House says the vice president is pushing for national legislation to protect reproductive rights. The Supreme Court, of course, as we know, reversed Roe last year, undoing the constitutional right to abortion. Second story is this. The FDA is defending the decades-old approval of the abortion pill. I don't know if you saw this story, but
Mm.
the agency is urging a federal judge to reject an attempt by abortion opponents to withdraw federal approval for this drug used in medical abortions. The lawsuit filed in November by the conservative legal group Alliance Defending Freedom argues the FDA unlawfully fast-track approval of this abortion pill.
How long have we been using this abortion pill?
Decades.
We've been using, and so they're saying that after decades, it was too quickly approved.
Right. They don't want it.
They're full of crap. And I love the name. I love their name. They have freedom in it, and yet they
The
want to
Alliance
control
Defending
everybody.
Freedom.
Give me a
Yeah.
friggin' break over here. I mean, I understand marking the anniversary of something, but it's kind of weird given the fact that it's been overturned, right?
Mhm.
We do need to protect a woman's right to choose her own decision, and I don't know how we get back there. I don't know if it's even going to happen, and that's what's frightening. I don't know if it's going to happen in our lifetime, Kim,
Yeah.
especially with the makeup and the age of the U.S. Supreme Court justices right now.
Mm-mm.
Unless there is a better argument, which I leave it up to people a hell of a lot smarter than me to figure out on how we can convince a conservative Supreme Court that people should not be forced to be pregnant. I just, it still boggles my mind that we're having this conversation in 2023. It's insane. It's absolutely insane.
I guess I can see using the 50th anniversary of Roe v. Wade as a platform to talk about the need. But when she's talking about a national legislation to protect reproductive rights, and you look at the makeup of the House of Representatives, I just don't see how realistic that's going to be. How we're
Mm.
going to get there with national legislation passed by both houses. I don't get it.
I think what's going to honestly happen is we're going to start seeing the consequence of the overturning of Roe v. Wade. We're going to see obviously a jump in
Mhm.
teen pregnancies, unwanted pregnancies. We're going to see the consequence on our social services, on the safety nets. We are going to see, hopefully, in the ballot box, as
Mhm.
women and men start to realize that you have voted for lawmakers that are trying to control women's bodies. And I know that there's a lot of allies both on the Republican and Democratic side that are like, we kind of liked it the way it was with Roe v. Wade. Yes, it wasn't a free for all, which again, I'm a 100%. You do what you want with your body, with your doctor, your family, your God, if you believe in one. I do not believe the government should have any say. I don't care. I don't believe in the whole late term abortion nonsense at
No.
all. And so I don't think that the government has any role in any restrictions, but there were restrictions under Roe v. Wade. And
Yeah.
so that's what we should get back to. That's what we should get back to.
Yeah. And I think it's important, I think, as women to realize after 50 years, this is what we're dealing with now.
I know. It's so scary, Kim. It's
Whoever
frightening.
would have thought? I
Mm,
just saw a story pop up. The
mm.
rivalry between California and Texas?
Of course.
Yeah. So Governor Gavin Newsom comes out today and says Californians pay lower taxes than Texans. Stick it to you, Texas. He
Oh,
says,
really?
yeah, he made the claim during a budget conference yesterday. Governor Newsom telling the Sacramento Bee his source for the information is a study from 2018 from the Institute on Taxation and Economic Policy. That organization, though, said, well, wait, we don't have any specific percentage of who pays less and who pays more. It's also hard to compare the two states because California has a state income tax and Texas doesn't have that.
No.
So homes cost less in Texas, but property taxes are higher in
Higher.
Texas.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a hard thing to really measure. But I love Gavin Newsom. You know, he's always
He'll
like,
he'll always dig
we
at
pay
it. You
less
know
in
what I mean?
Texas.
I
Yeah.
thought you were gonna say that there was gonna be a rivalry because of the Niner Cowboy game. So we'll see what happens there. I thought they were gonna maybe do
Oh,
a friendly wager, perhaps. I mean, it's not the Super Bowl, of course, but this is going to be a game for the ages. So, and I'm definitely going to be back. As if all goes as planned, I'll be back on Friday and definitely do a show on Monday. So we'll be talking Niners
and the game is
football.
on Sunday, right?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. So
Oh,
very, very excited.
I've been reading stories all morning about how much tickets are costing for
Oh,
this
it's
game.
crazy. It is
Yeah.
insane. And I saw some guy posted something about sweet boxes. It was like $68,000 or some
No.
crap. I'm like, no, dude, my couch is free. And I can post view I make the drinks just the way I like them. You know what I mean? So yeah, I'll
Yeah.
be sitting at home watching the game. Definitely.
We were also talking earlier about how much better it is to watch football from home. I mean, you don't get the ambiance.
Yes,
You don't get
it's
that buzz and that
fun.
excitement,
Yes.
but you do see the game better, really.
Oh yeah. And I mean, in all honesty, like when I went to Levi's, because they have obviously the jumbotrons up and everything.
Yeah.
If you don't have decent seats, you're pretty much watching it on the screen anyway.
It's like,
But
what's the
nothing
point?
beats being in that crowd. I mean, it's just being in the atmosphere. You could say that about concerts. You could say
Yeah.
it about a lot of things that unless you're front row, is it worth it or not? But nah, I'm gonna be watching it at home. I hope we win. I mean, we're on such a roll right now, but never say never. So I'm never too cocky, but I think we should do well. So
Okay, well, I can't wait to hear that. I'm hoping that you guys do you think you're still going to be in a hospital tomorrow? In the hospital tomorrow?
tomorrow is going to be an iffy day. We're going to have to see right when we wake up,
Okay.
with the testing. I'm doing this. So because my daughter's on the TPN, I'm becoming like a mini nurse at home because I have to
Okay.
change the caps and the tubes. And oh my God, it is so nerve-wracking, Kim. Because I also have this little mini me over here just staring at me, making sure I'm doing it right. Gets me all stressed out. See, you can hear her.
Yeah.
It's anyways. But yeah, so I'm doing all this stuff. It's got to stay sterile because it goes, into her
Yeah.
vena cave. I mean, it's intense. So
Yeah.
tomorrow's a big day. I may not be able to jump in. If I can, of course, I'll be here. But if
Okay.
all goes as well, I should be doing the show, taking all of this off your plate completely. But I really do. You've been knocking it out of the ballpark, Kim. I'm telling you, you've been awesome. I need your own show. I'm thinking. So, oh, hello.
Well,
there you go.
that was another mom calling me. Mom, it's the drama. I'm telling you. I'll have to tell you all about it.
There's
Oh,
Marley.
there she is. Hi, girlfriend. Marla, I don't know if she can hear me, but one of the things that I want to make sure that she knows is that there are so many people pulling for her. I mean,
she knows.
yeah.
It's been an overwhelming amount of support that we absolutely love and we need. And
Yeah.
nobody wants to be in this situation, but thank God you have, your tribe of family and friends, and it's
Yeah.
just been awesome. So,
Okay, some last minute thank yous before we go. I want to thank Andreas.
Andreas, I love you.
Andreas, $20. Nikki, good luck with your daughter.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We also thank Andreas again. Another $20. Chip was on the show
Oh
earlier.
yeah, Chip was on the show.
So,
That's awesome.
Yeah, he says he'll never yell at you. At the end of the day, left wing, right wing, we're all the same bird. That's absolutely true.
Exactly. I
love
you,
that
Andreas.
guy. By the way, Andreas has also spent the night in the hospital. His 94-year-old
Oh.
mom was in the hospital.
Oh no.
So he's going through some health issues with family members as well. So we send our good wishes out to Andreas and to his mom.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And thanks to Bob Anda, $4.99 super sticker.
Nice.
Whoopty
Thanks,
whoopty.
Bob. You're awesome,
Yeah.
Bob.
It's always so nice. We appreciate all the support. If I forgot any anybody, I'm so sorry.
Well, I thank everybody for tuning in and
Yeah,
always
it's
supporting the show. You guys are awesome.
I'm
Absolutely amazing.
scrolling back through. Sometimes it's hard by yourself to, click on, make sure that you get all them.
You've
So
been
if you
doing amazing,
Yes,
Kim. You've
I'm
been doing
sorry if I
amazing.
skipped you, but I love you all and thank you for that. Please hit the like button. We really count on that as well. If you want to support the show, the NikkiMedoroShow.com. Of course, that would be Nikki Medoro right there in the hospital. And you can always check the NikkiMedoroShow.com. We've got PayPal, we've got the Patreon, the whole 9 yards. So thank you for all of that. We will be back tomorrow. Hopefully Nikki will be here, but if not, that's all right. We got you.
We'll see you on Friday then, definitely.
That's right. We'll talk about news. We'll talk about everything else. And if I can get to it, we'll close out the show with
There's my boy. There he is.
Jacob.
Nikki, you're all so awesome. Miss Brown, like a beautiful blossom. You're all so the best. I really can't rest. You're all so awesome.
Wow. Okay.